PlayStation. I would consider the PlayStation as my favourite video game console of all time. Some of my favourite video games of all time have been PlayStation games. Hello and welcome to my latest YouTube video. I know it's been a very long time since I uploaded a video onto YouTube, so I hope I still have it. I hope you watch to the end, and I hope you enjoy. Now, one of my favourite PlayStation games, and as a result one of my favourite video games of all time, is Resident Evil. The second I played this game, I instantly fell in love with it. Resident Evil is a survival horror game. Let me explain what that is. You have limited weapons, limited ammunition, and limited health. You also don't get to choose when you want to save the game. In order to save your progress, you have to collect ink ribbons, which are also limited. Then you have to find typewriters to use your ink ribbons to save your progress. So it really is a very intense game of survival. You could die at any moment. And if you haven't saved your progress, dying means you have to start the game from the very beginning. And it was those elements, it was that type of gameplay that defined the series. Now, this video is going to be about how these games have changed over the years, and how I'm not particularly happy with those changes. So I hope you enjoy. Now, after the release of Resident Evil 4, the creator of Resident Evil left Capcom, which is the publisher of Resident Evil. He didn't agree with the direction of the series. The series was going down a more action-orientated route. Because if you've played Resident Evil 4, you will know that action was a pretty big part of that game as opposed to survival horror. Nonetheless, it was a very successful game, and that resulted in Capcom going down the action route with the release of Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. Now, I don't agree with that direction because, as I said, for me, Resident Evil has always been survival horror. I'm not really, a fan of action in Resident Evil games. Nonetheless, Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 were both great games. Unfortunately, they just weren't great Resident Evil games. In both Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, you had multiple weapons, lots of ammunition, plenty of health, and you could pretty much save the game, whenever you wanted to. There was checkpoints and continues throughout the game. So it just lost its identity as the years went by. So for me, I feel, the point of the video really is, that was Resident Evil on the PlayStation. I now own a PlayStation 4, and chances are, Resident Evil 7 on the PlayStation 4, will just continue going down the route that has been going down since Resident Evil 5. It's just going to slowly but surely lose its identity, and it's a shame really, and it's upsetting because this game here, Resident Evil, defined the PlayStation for me. So when I play a PlayStation 4, I feel like I'm missing something. I'm missing a true Resident Evil experience. Moving on to my second game, Final Fantasy VII. Just like Resident Evil, it is. I would consider this as one of my favorite games, and definitely one of my favorite PlayStation games. Final Fantasy is a role-playing game, RPG in short. Now I know a lot of I don't mean any offense by this, but many of the younger generation of gamers, when they hear RPG, they're going to assume that I'm talking about, some sort of grenade or rocket launcher, that you would see in the likes of Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty. But in actual fact, RPG stands for role-playing game, and that is what Final Fantasy was known for. It was a role-playing game. Essentially, it's just you take the role as a character. You can level up the character. You can customize the character. So on and so forth. Another theme of this game was turn-based combat. Your characters, your party of characters would face off against enemies, and they would both take turns to attack each other. So you had to wait your turn to use, like magic or, various attacks or whatever it may be. So it was a bit different to what you would traditionally think of combat. You really had to. It was more strategy. There was more strategy involved. You had to take your turn to attack, and while you're waiting your turn, you're thinking, okay, which attack will I use? Will I use this enemy is ice? Will I use a fire magic? To attack this enemy. So strategy, was key to the turn-based combat aspect of the game. So turn-based combat role-playing game that sorry, got a cough at the moment, so you're gonna have to bear with me on that. Sorry. So yeah, that is what role-playing and turn-based combat is what the Final Fantasy series was known for. Specifically, on the PlayStation 7, 8, and 9, and on the on the PlayStation 2, Final Fantasy X. But unfortunately, similar to what happened with the Resident Evil series, after the release of Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy X-2, which was Final Fantasy X2, I believe the creator of Final Fantasy left the project, left what it was called back then Squaresoft, now known as Square Enix, left the company, left the project, and that is when the series, just like Resident Evil, started to go down a different route. It started to lose, the turn-based combat aspect of the game, and even to an extent, it lost its role-playing gameplay also. So these two games, Resident Evil and Final Fantasy, pretty much lost their identity as the years went on, and it's a shame because, as I said, I have a PlayStation 4, and I just feel that I'm missing something. I'm missing Final Fantasy. I'm missing Resident Evil. Yes, I can get Final Fantasy 15, but it's just not going to feel like Final Fantasy 7. Yes, I can get Resident Evil 6, even though it doesn't work on the PS4. But it's just not going to feel like a Resident Evil game. So I suppose I don't know if I'm doing a good job getting my point across here, but pretty much what I'm saying is, the experience that I got from playing Resident Evil and Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation just isn't there on the PlayStation 4. I don't get a sense of continuation, the next generation. You hear that a lot, because that's what they describe it as, like PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4 as next generation. But I don't seem to, as a gamer, as a fan of these two games, I don't seem to get that feeling of next generation. And I suppose, last, but certainly not least, we have. Sorry, I got my phone on charger, so. Okay. This final PlayStation game is Spyro the Dragon. I really, really love this game. I almost get upset talking about the game because, I just loved it. I loved everything about this game. The Spyro himself, just his character, his personality, the gameplay, just everything about this game I loved. Now there's a bit of a complex story to how this, series. It didn't end; it more or less transformed. But I'll get to that in a minute. But it's a bit complex. So let me try and explain. I don't know if you can see this; it's quite blurry. There's two names. You can see right there. On the top it says Insomniac Games, and at the bottom it's Universal Studios. Sorry, this camera is acting up at the moment. Basically, the story is Universal Studios hired Insomniac Games on a 3-year project, which would involve the production of Spyro the Dragon, Spyro the Dragon 2, and Spyro the Dragon 3. Now, after that project, after the third game, the creator of Spyro the Dragon, Ted Price is his name, from Insomniac Games, he pretty much ran out of ideas after the third game, so that's when he pretty much packed his bags and left. The project was over. They didn't really continue, but Insomniac Games didn't continue, so Universal Studios went elsewhere, and there was various other companies that continued developing other Spyro games, but these games just were not good. That's not even opinion. That's pretty much fact. I don't think anybody would tell you. I don't think anybody would disagree with that point. The remaining Spyro games were just absolutely disastrous. As a result of Insomniac Games not being involved, as a result of Ted Price not being involved, really similar to my previous two games that I've shown. Resident Evil and Final Fantasy. The creator of Spyro the Dragon just wasn't involved in the series anymore. So as a result, the series just went completely downhill. And I'm supposed to jump forward here a little bit. Now, this series, Spyro the Dragon, is now owned by a familiar company. You might know them, Activision. And they pretty much transformed the series into a new series, and that series is now called Skylanders. Completely different franchise, completely different game, different gameplay. In no shape or form is it connected to Spyro the Dragon. I know that apparently in the first 2 games, or maybe 3 Skylander games, you can technically play as Spyro, but I'm almost 100% certain that even though he is called Spyro, he looks nothing like what you're looking at here. So Skylanders just simply, it isn't Spyro the Dragon. I'm not going to go out and buy Skylanders based off my love of Spyro the Dragon. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just upsetting that one of the many games that defined the PlayStation for me, just isn't there anymore. I have the console, I had the PlayStation 4, but unfortunately I don't have, the next Spyro the Dragon game on that console. So yeah, it's kind of upsetting, really. So yeah, three of my favorite video games of all time, and definitely favorite PlayStation games of all time that defined the PlayStation experience for me. Back in their good days, their glory days, and unfortunately those glory days are pretty much over. But here's the interesting point, and this is how I'm gonna end the video at this point. Actually, these 3 games, their glory days may be over, but the interesting thing about it, I'm just gonna fling a game box up here in a second. Bear with me. Now, first of all, say what you want about the look of this game. Say what you want about Mario and Nintendo games. And I'm not interested. I'm not interested. What I will say is this. I'm not going to spark any arguments or debates here. But, you know, if you're going to call me, let's get it out in the open. You know, if you're going to call this a kid's game and you're going to call Nintendo a kid's company, let's talk about Spider-Man. Let's talk about Spider-Man. I would consider Spider-Man as pretty big with the kids. You know, let's face it. Yet I'm sure there's plenty of people, you know, over the age of 15, you know, that would get all excited when they hear about the next, you know, Spider-Man movie or anything connected to Spider-Man. So, again, not to spark any argument or debate here, but, you know, yeah, you can call Super Mario a kid's game. You can call it. You can call it whatever you like, you know. But just remember that, you know, chances are something you like as well that might be, like, you know, considered popular with the kids, you know, could also be considered only for kids. But you know what? Enough about that. Enough about that. Let's get back to the point of the video, okay? Super Mario 3D World. You know, everyone knows who Mario is. Everyone knows about Super Mario Bros. This year is the 30th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Series. 30 years. And here's an interesting fact. The original creator of Super Mario, Shigeru Miyamoto, is still to this day heavily involved in his project, in the Super Mario Bros. Franchise. And as you can see, he is still making Super Mario games. And let me tell you, this is one of the most fun Super Mario games that I've ever played. And I've played a lot of Super Mario games. Like my first Super Mario game would have been Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. Now that would have been around the same time as me playing these three games. So I'm playing like the likes of Resident Evil Director's Cut along with Super Mario 64. Sorry, not this game, but Super Mario 64. You know? And I love Super Mario 64. You know, so unlike these three game series, all those years after playing Super Mario 64, I can play the latest Super Mario game on the latest Nintendo console and enjoy it just like I did with Super Mario 64. I mean, all the gameplay mechanics, all the elements of what made Super Mario 64 a great game can be found in Super Mario 3D World on the Nintendo Wii U. And that's just, you know, that's great for me. Like, it's a shame that I can't get that experience on the PlayStation. I'm not attacking the PlayStation here by any means. I'm just saying that, you know, every console has its strength and weakness. But I'm just saying that, you know, like, again, like, you know, unlike these three games, I can't really get the sense of a continuation of Resident Evil or a continuation of Spyro or a continuation of Final Fantasy on the PlayStation 4. Whereas, you know, I can get a continuation of from Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64, you know, with Super Mario 3D World on the Nintendo Wii U. You know, 30 years later. You know, 30 years later, Super Mario is still around. It's still fun to play, and it's every element that you can find in a Super Mario game is still there to this day. So let's summarize this video. Bear in mind, I haven't uploaded a video onto YouTube for quite a while, so I'm sorry if you didn't like it. If you did, that's brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, you know, it's unfortunate that I pretty much kind of have to say kind of like, you know, goodbye to these games more or less. I mean, I can play this game right now. That's the great thing about it. I can play this game right now. I can play all these games right now. But, you know, it's the fact that you know, the latest Resident Evil game doesn't quite match my experience of the original Resident Evil. Whereas, now this might look like I'm kind of like, you know, Nintendo is better than Sony kind of a thing. Yeah, that's not what I'm trying to kind of, you know, come across as at all. I'm just trying to say that, it's a shame. It's a shame that that they all can't they all can't be like Nintendo when it comes to the same creator involved in the project, and 30 years later it's still around. It's just a shame that all game developers can't be like that. So yeah, that's pretty much the point I wanted to come across. Really, is the fact that the games that define the PlayStation for me just don't seem to be there anymore. Whereas the games that define Nintendo consoles are still there, because from Super Mario 64, as I said, was the first Super Mario game that I played on the Nintendo 64. So from there I played Super Mario Sunshine on the Nintendo GameCube. And from there I played Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Nintendo Wii. And now, we go from Super Mario Galaxy 2 to Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U. So from the Wii to the Wii U. So that continuation from the N64 to the GameCube to the Wii to the Wii U, when it comes to the Super Mario series. Whereas I can't really get a sense of continuation from Resident Evil, You know what I'm saying? So, that's pretty much all I really wanted to kind of come across here, really. I hope you enjoyed my video. I am indeed back on YouTube. I hope to upload a hell of a lot more videos regularly on YouTube. And I hope they get better as well. And you know what, just going to say one thing as well. I'm not going to become PewDiePie. I'm not going to become any of these famous, YouTubers. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna become, what's that guy called, Boogie. I'm not gonna Francis. I'm not gonna start smashing my consoles anytime soon. I'm just gonna be me. I will try and improve my videos to the best of my ability. But I'm just gonna be me. Well, I'm not gonna say what you see, because this is probably one of the first videos I've actually shown myself. But nonetheless, what you see and what you hear is what you get, and that's pretty much it. It's me. I can't be anybody else. So. If you like my video, that's fantastic. If you don't, that's cool too. So yeah, I do hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching nonetheless.